Too close to call. Next. Welcome to the Stan Simpson Show, a program about Connecticut people and compelling issues. Make it a point to drop in every week. Folks, it's too close to call. That's the new mantra for Connecticut's signature elections in November. The governor's race, pitting former Stamford Mayor Dan Malloy and Greenwich businessman Tom Foley, is essentially a dead heat now. Ditto for the Senate race between Attorney General Richard Blumenthal and former pro wrestling business titan Linda McMahon. Chris Keating of the Hartford Courant and Christine Stewart of CTNewsJunkie.com are in studio to offer their insights on this historic election year. In our second segment, we'll talk about why a very prominent defense attorney may find himself in prison after he defied a judge's gag order on the Cheshire murder trial. Defense attorney Reese Norris returns to tell us more about it. Then we'll wrap things up with some baseball chatter. The Current's Dom Amore will tell us whether the Yankees have enough left in the tank to win their 28th World Championship. But first, it's too close to call. Christine Stewart, CTNewsJunkie.com. Chris Keating, Capitol Bureau Chief, Hartford Courant. You know, I kind of left this race here for governor. They're calling each other liars back and forth. I kind of checked out. Next thing I know, it's neck and neck. What happened here to Dan Malloy's lead?
You know, Dan Malloy says that he is still the underdog. He's not really commenting on the loss of the lead. I mean, he was up 9 points in the last poll. Now he's down to a 3-point lead. So it's really unclear at this point. I don't even think the poll director, Doug Schwartz, had a real clear answer for it.
Keating, you have a clear answer? What happened here?
I think what happened, the unaffiliateds are swinging towards Foley. I think that's a piece of it.
Why?
But the unaffiliateds, well, he's done a lot of negative television advertising. I think that's got something to do with it. If you ask him, that's what he'll say. He says there's becoming more defined messages between the two candidates. It's not a Democratic primary anymore. You have the general electorate involved, you got Republicans involved, the unaffiliateds involved. In the same way, if you go back to the Lieberman-Lamont race, back in 06, Lamont won the primary, but once you get to the general public, you have a more conservative general public, things are split in a different way.
The Hartford Courant did a fact check on these ads, who was lying, who was not lying. They found both these ads were essentially true, that under Dan Malloy, Stamford did lose jobs under his watch, though he did create jobs, but there was a net loss from 2000, and that the Bibb Corporation down in Georgia, there were issues there with Foley. So does the public get confused when they see he's a liar, she's a liar? I mean, what happens here? The negative ads work, but the issue of jobs is very critical here. So who can make the stronger case right now for jobs? What's their strategy to make that case that they can create jobs?
I think Dan Malloy has become a better candidate over these 4 years. I mean, he's had 4 years. He lost in 2006. He has become a better candidate. He's very well spoken on the issues. I don't know who owns the jobs issues, and I know that it is very important. And, you know, people do watch the television ads, so they are going to pay attention to those.
Look at the polls right now and see how it's tightened up. So if you're Dan Malloy right now, you're trying to downplay the relevance of these polls, and clearly you're sliding. What are you hearing from insiders? What does he have to do now to change the dynamic? Does he go more negative? Does he start putting more money into the campaign? What happens from the Malloy side?
Well, he can't put more money into the campaign. He has $6 million in public financing, so that's it. That's all he gets. As far as strategy, I think that they are dismissing the latest results in the Quinnipiac poll. I mean, the Quinnipiac poll had him down by 3 points the day before the primary election, and he ended up winning by 14.
Mm-hmm.
So,
is that a mistake,
so
though?
maybe it's, maybe there are some polling glitches.
I think the debates will be huge, basically, as we move into October. We're going to have televised debates. We're going to have non-televised debates. The debates could be, in this case, a deciding factor because it pretty much really is a dead heat. It's very, almost impossible to predict who would win at this point.
If you're Tom Foley's campaign, what do you do now? What are the insiders saying that they want to do? Keep the heat on? He's got a bunch of money. What's his strategy?
Foley does have to keep the heat on, and he does have to do well in the debates, particularly the televised debates. There's already been 2 non-televised debates. The general public probably doesn't hear too much about that unless they're reading their Hartford Courant and Capital Watch and things of that nature. But the televised debates, which will start next week, basically we'll have Senate and governor debates next week, Monday and Tuesday. That will could be the tail of the tape. Could be a deciding factor. We'll basically have 1 televised debate each week for 4 weeks.
But the key issue will still be, though, jobs. End of the day, nationally and locally, it's about who the population thinks can create jobs.
Well, and I think Lieutenant Governor Michael Fedeli will tell you that his advertisements regarding the bib company, which Tom Foley used to run, the mill in Georgia that went under in 1996, that those were effective.
It worked, right?
In him surging towards the end at the primary.
Because truth be told, folks still don't know much about either candidate, particularly Malloy or Foley, who sort of new to the game. He's been an ambassador. He's been in the Bush administration. But folks don't really know a whole lot about him except for this bib situation.
Right. So the Malloy campaign is running ads regarding the bib situation. Also, the Democratic Governors Association, for the very first time, is entering the race in Connecticut and is going to be running ads and to the extent that Foley bankrupted the bid.
Yeah, those are on the bib exactly on that point.
And quickly now, Dan Malloy has a record in Stamford. He's trying to say, listen, my record speaks for itself. The Foley campaign is trying to say, listen, that record is a bit distorted if you know the real facts. So it's a fascinating contest, as is the one for Senate, right? Richard Blumenthal, Linda McMahon going head-to-head. That race now is tightened up. How does Dick Blumenthal stop the bleeding there?
He's got to jump in and do a bunch more television ads. Supposedly, he's going to expose more about McMahon and wrestling, et cetera, et cetera. The general public is obviously aware that McMahon is tied in with wrestling. They might not know every detail about every wrestler who died and every wrestler who took steroids, but the public knows in general that McMahon was the head of wrestling, that's for sure.
Why hasn't he exploited that more, Blumenthal? It seems to be low-lying fruit. There's a pretty sordid record there with WWE as far as steroids, gender issues. You would think that strategists would say, you know what, go after, expose some of the bad side of that business. Why hasn't he been more aggressive in going there?
He hasn't run a campaign in 20 years. He hasn't really had a campaign in 20 years. So he hasn't really gone after her. Even when he's handed the issue, he doesn't criticize her. So it's... I don't know if we are going to see him go after her. I don't think that it's in his DNA.
It's certainly in her DNA because she's throwing everything at him and it's starting to work, right? She's really now taking the lead in trying to create the image on who is the real Dick Blumenthal, and now she's taking the lead on that.
Right, and a lot of the general public does believe the television commercials in general. They might not believe the whole thing, but they might believe 75 to 80% of it. And if they're getting a lot of their information from the commercials, and McMahon is running a lot of commercials, that's how Blumenthal gets painted. Either pro or con, that's how he gets painted through the commercials. In
30 seconds, his seat is open now. The AG race, also fascinating. Martha Dean, Jepsen, former Senator Jepsen. Real quick, the thoughts there on that. 2 interesting personalities. How is that shaping up right now?
Martha Dean, I think, has a lot of support going into this election, and that, voters are angry, and she has a lot of the Tea Party votes. Is
George Jepsen considered sort of an establishment guy still, even though he's been away for a while? Not 15 seconds?
Yeah, Jepsen is very well known, but I do think Dean, though, surprised a lot of people to beat Ross Garber 60 to 40. I think that surprised a lot of people, the depth of that strength. So that's a very good race. They've had a debate or two, and that could be close potentially.
All right, real quick, 5 seconds. Joel Lieberman, still hear whispers that Susan Bythewitz is angling for that job in the next couple of years. Real quick, what's happening there? Any new names coming to the forefront of who may be positioning for the Lieberman seat in 2012, I guess, right? So.
Well, Chris Murphy always comes up. Whether Murphy would do it remains to be seen. And I think until Lieberman actually says something, there'll be speculation right up till the minute until he says something.
And Christine, you're saying let's just stay focused right now on 210, right? Let's not get too far ahead. All right. We're going to come back, folks, with more of the Stan Simpson Show. Find out why a very prominent defense attorney may find himself in prison after he violated a judge's gag order on the Cheshire murder trials. Don't go away.